Thank you. My name is Scott Fleming. I'm an alcoholic. And first I want to thank my Creator for allowing me to be sober with you tonight. I didn't think of a drink all day. That's still a miracle for me. And I'm on my knees every morning thanking Him for that. And anything else is just a cherry on top. I don't always act that way, but in my heart, that's what I believe. I want to thank the group and Chris for the kind invitation to come out and be with you tonight. It was wonderful to walk into a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous in another state and see people that I've already met along the way, like Kyle and Sean, like Michelle and Luke. See Chris, who I haven't seen in a while. I got other friends that came up from a little bit south. I think Bobby and Johnny Staz, Johnny's one of my mentors. Johnny's actually celebrating 44 years on Monday. And like James talked about me, and I still don't feel worthy when I hear my name that much up here, but I then think about what I think of people that came before me, and Johnny is one of those people that has been there for me with like, I don't know, 17 or 18 years of sobriety, on the phone crying, going through stuff, emotional, confused, a little bit of depression, whatever, fear, and he's talking me through it, you know. That's what we do here. I hope if you're new, that's what you find. I found that. So I understand what James is saying. And anything that I talk about tonight, I love sharing because it's a story of Alcoholics Anonymous and God. I am not confused who I was when I got here. And what they tell us is the instructions they give me up here is what I was like, what happened, and what I'm like now, not what it was like. I said that in a meeting a few months ago, and a guy came up to me and goes, "Yeah, but it really says what it was like." I said, "No, it doesn't. What I was like, that's my story. But what happened and what I'm like today is your story. And the story of God, and I'm forever grateful." The sobriety date that was given to me is February 13, 2002. So from that day to this day, I have not picked up a drink. But I can tell you what's more miraculous or more impressive is I haven't wanted to drink from about 6 months after that date till now. And if you're new, pay attention. I hope you, as I tell my story, find out why. I'm sure it'll be pretty evident. But I come from a good family. Right outside of Philadelphia. I don't have anything to point to and say that's why I'm alcoholic. My mother and father are decent people. I never heard them say one derogatory comment about another human being. And I love them for that. My mom was a teacher, a kindergarten teacher, and she stressed education, which was very hard growing up because I'm like a D- student, you know. And my father was a Vietnam vet, disabled, who battled his own demons, but was there for us and gave us a good life, and everything that's important was given to me in life. And but if I look back on it, what I think is I was born with an exaggerated ego. As I had to be around you growing up, I was threatened, I think, and I don't think I felt like I measured up. So I would have to find ways in which to make myself feel better before alcohol came into my life, and that was to put you down. My brother's, here's a good example. My brother's a year and a half younger than me, and he took the brunt of my ism. I would put him down, put my hands on him, try to make him feel small so I could feel bigger. And I would carry that shame for a long time, right into Alcoholics Anonymous. I remember when he went off to college, I was crying. I wanted to tell him I'm sorry for that. I wasn't the big brother, and I love you, and I couldn't. Riddled with shame for that, drink in my cups. And I just had to feel better than you, and I would exaggerate. I would lie. I found out in my fifth step how much I lie to impress you. You know, and around 13 years old, alcohol came into my life like it comes into most people's lives. But for me, it was powerful and magical, as I'm sure it was for you guys. Instantly, my life changed. I was transformed. Instantly, I could connect with you. I don't know if I knew how disconnected I was to that point. I felt like the guys wanted me around. I felt like I knew I could talk to the girls, which I was deathly afraid of before that. So alcohol was so powerful that it became the most important thing in my life that very night. 13 and 14 and 15, all I could do is think about it. Everything else in my life, I played a lot of sports in high school, 4 sports. I was very good at tennis, basketball, but everything else became secondary. Booze became primary. And it was all about how can I get another drink? What money can I steal to get another drink? What older guys in the neighborhood can I befriend so they can buy me the booze? I was dominated by alcohol at 13 on, and that's what it became. And it felt good. It felt great. I'm a feel-good guy, so I ran with it. I became a popular kid who parties in high school. How amazing is that? My spirit could come out and play, it felt like, and I played a lot. Like I said, I've flown down my senior year to play in front of in North Carolina to play in front of a coach, tennis, and they offered me a scholarship. When I'm down there, well, before they offered me a scholarship, I'm down there and I see how they party on this campus. Like we were at the regional finals. They brought us into it was raining, so we went into the Raleigh Cricket Club, and this guy on the tennis team was older than me. We both noticed there was a wedding reception being set up, and we both kind of had the same idea. Let's steal this keg. Nobody was around, and we did. We stole that keg, put it in the bushes, called his friend with a pickup truck, came and grabbed it, took it out. We didn't get caught. Finished the match, went to the dorm room, supposed to go to bed. We didn't. We snuck out. Well, I snuck out. He was allowed out, and I drank all night long until the birds came up. And I knew that was the school I wanted to go to. And I flew back home, and I graduated by the skin of my teeth, and I couldn't wait to go to that college. And I get arrested halfway through the summer because I'm drinking around the clock, can't stop, and now I'm facing charges. And my mom and dad, they come from alcoholism. My immediate family, there is none, but my uncles and aunts and their big families, 11 kids and 7 kids, uncles and aunts, grandma, they're alcoholics. So my mom and dad grew up with it. They knew what it felt like, knew what it looked like, and they'd already been asking me to get help since I was about 16, 17. But I wasn't going to let you take away the one thing that makes me feel comfortable in my own skin at 17 years old. No way. But now I'm facing charges. So I thought, let me go in. If I go into rehab, the judge will be lenient on me. So I go into rehab at 18 years old. No thoughts I'm going to stop drinking, but while I'm in there, I can't help listen to these old dudes. They were like 30, 40 years old. They were talking about things that they lost that I was about to embark on, like a scholarship, like an education, like a career. One guy was crying because his mom and dad died before they got to see him do anything with his life. One guy hadn't seen his kids in a few years. Like, I could feel the shame and remorse. It was palpable. And I didn't want to end up like they did. And I could also see the truth with my drinking in a moment. And I said, I don't want to end up like they did. I want to go away and take advantage of the scholarship. I want to get an education. I want to have a career. I want to make my mom and dad proud. And I set off to do that. And I didn't drink for 29 days. That 30th day of me being sober was the day my parents dropped me off and drove away. I'm down now alone, and I wouldn't have drank. Like my intentions were to get around the guys that don't drink, and live a good life. And I wouldn't have drank if I wasn't asked the wrong question that night. But the guys on the tennis team came over to me, welcomed me on campus, and said, "Do you want some beer?" And I said, "Yeah, give me a 6-pack of Bud Pounders," just like that. And they brought it back. I cracked that tall boy. I put it in my mouth, and it went into my body, in my bloodstream. My eyes lit up. And I got that feeling right here that I love more than anything else in the world. I thought, what was I drinking, what was I doing not drinking for 29 days? This is the best feeling in the world. And by the end of that night, I could not stop, and I was still up at 5 a.m. calling my aunt crying because I really didn't want to drink. And I came to when the party was on. I never played one match of tennis. I was at that college for a year and a half, and I couldn't go to class that final semester. I'm 19 years old. I'm drinking more and more and more, and the magic of booze is leaving. There's no more. I'm not social. I'm not hanging out with people. I'm in my dorm room. Nobody wants to be around me. I'm getting into fights. I'm not a fighter, and it's becoming dark. And I'm confused because not too long ago, alcohol lit me up. And I remember the dean had me in his office. Now, I have great parents, like I said. The dean had me in his office, and he said, "Look, if you don't leave here," like he wanted me to go. I was creating some problems on campus, some illegal things. He said, "If you don't leave, we're gonna look into getting you out of here forcefully or pressing some charges." And I called my mom and dad. They rushed and they got me home. And I came home and I enrolled in Bucks County Community College, which has a great tennis team. They go to nationals every year, and I'm the number one player. Within 2 weeks, I can't even go to class anymore. I'm drinking in the woods with the guys that drink like me. I end up bouncing around on friends' couches. I'm getting odd jobs like roofing and siding at my friends own the company, so I could call out on Monday or call out on Friday, and they would take me back, get advances and not show up, but they would always take me back. And this is how I'm living. And I took a hostage, a girl that cared about me, really cared about me, and I didn't care. I couldn't care about her. I drug her through my alcoholic life. I used and abused her. She finally cut me off. It's part of the reason why I'm here. I couldn't believe she finally did, but she did, Taking my parents hostage through my 20s. I have a sister that's 10 years younger than me, in her most formative years, in her most important years. Alcoholism's progressing in me, and I'm an animal. And I'm putting them in great danger. My mom and dad would beg me to leave. Or they would let me in and say, you can't drink. And I would, of course, drink and bring things into the home that weren't safe. And they would beg me, they would get me out and ask me. Then I'm bouncing around on friends' couches. I'm virtually homeless through my 20s. I would get like studios or efficiencies, get a great job, progress, make good money. And the next thing you know, the lights were out in my little efficiency. Landlord knocking on the door, you got to go. Became unemployable. Now my mom is a teacher, I told you. She, since I was a kid, has had me in front of guidance counselors, therapists, psychologists, and psychiatrists because she knew there was something wrong with me. I've been on different meds and stuff, and here I am in my late 20s, mid to late 20s, and I'm drinking around the clock, and I'm starting to hear things and see things. And I'm getting scared because I heard that schizophrenia hits you in your late 20s. And I think that's what I got. I also don't want you to tell me it's the booze. I'd rather you tell me it's schizophrenia. So I'm in front of a doctor and go on meds. I'm here to tell you I'm not schizophrenic. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I didn't have that. I had untreated alcoholism. And there was a way up and a way out. And I didn't know all that. I don't know why, but this one day, like I had a week where I had a few direct hits. You know how you have those things that whiz by your head? I had a few direct hits. And I was at the bar drinking with a friend, and she's telling me things truths about me and I remember saying to her, I'm going to get some help tomorrow. And I've said that a lot of times. That rehab I had thought about that I was in at 18. I was back in it when I was 20, but I had thought about that rehab a lot when I was out there and things were bad, or as I'm going down to my emotional bottom, and I just never could make that phone call. I could never I could never give up booze. And here I am talking to this friend, and she's telling me truths about me, and the next day I come to, I'm 29 years old, and the realization of my life hits me. It crashes down upon me. Virtually homeless. Nobody had no friendly direction, as Clancy says. Parents said no, they can't come in there. No friends left. And all I had left was this little car. And I'm bawling in that car. The pain was great. And that rehab came to my mind. And I made the phone call to that rehab that I was in twice already. I can't believe I made the call, but I made it. And they said, come on in. I said, can I come in on Monday? Because it was like a Friday, And they're like, no, come on in now. And I went in, and I didn't tell them the truth about what all I drank, how much I drink, because I didn't want inpatient. I wanted outpatient, and they gave me outpatient, intensive outpatient. And I was going 4 to 9 every day at this intensive outpatient. And I liked it because I was hurting from booze, and I felt safe going there. And but there was one thing I didn't like, is they had this requirement that you had to make meetings. And I wasn't going to make meetings. I was sentenced to meetings when I was 20 at a DUI, and I went to half a meeting. It was at a clubhouse, and I went in there. I saw my buddy Ed, who I'm actually going to visit down in Naples this weekend, and Ed got sober at like 20 years old, and he signed my paper for me and all my papers. So I never really went into AA, but what I did see and what I felt was it was miserable. A bunch of old dudes commiserating. It was so smoky, you didn't have to worry about anonymity because you couldn't see anybody, you know? And I was like, I'm not going to AA. But that counselor that in the outpatient said to me after about 5 days of going, because there was like a whiteboard with everyone's name, and it would be like, Susie made 5 meetings, 3 over the weekend at a clubhouse, Bobby 2, Scott 0, Scott 0, Scott 0. And this guy, Dennis, said, I want to talk to you after this group. He said, if you don't make meetings, you can't be a part of this group. And I was afraid to not be a part of that group. I was afraid I would drink. So I was nudged into Alcoholics Anonymous by this counselor. And I walked in to the Greater Levittown group of Alcoholics Anonymous. It was that same group that I was there when I was 20 years old. I walked into that group, and I sat on the back wall, and I thought my life was over. I thought, all right, maybe I can stay sober. Like, maybe it's possible one day at a time, forever. But it's going to be miserable. But I watched you guys. And Deb G was the chairperson. And Deb had a speaker named Larry A. from Pendle, a town next to us, come and speak. And when Larry spoke, I paid attention. I wasn't on my phone. I have never been on a phone in a meeting of AA in my life. If you are, that's cool. We can still be friends. But I believe I know where that gets you. Because AA is those little things. AA taught me, and I give such reverence to this. This is life enriching, life saving. And I also know how that goes out to other areas of our life. So thank God I wasn't on my phone. I paid attention like only the dying could. And Larry spoke, and guess what happened? He seemed reasonably happy without drinking for all those years that he had. He drank exactly the way I drank. But most importantly is I believed him. And I got hope instantly. And I mean, you guys, and I put my hand up as, new and first time in AA. And by the way, congrats to all the celebrants. Philly with 2 years. I love that. I got hope instantly, and you guys came up and Tall Paul shook my hand. Welcome to AA. From that moment on to the day Tall Paul went to the big meet in the sky, I thanked him when I saw him. When Larry A., when I see him at the sepia roundup I go to every year, our intergroup roundup, this is the guy I heard speak, and he gave me hope. He reached me. I fell in love with the fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous that very night, and I have not fallen out of love with it. Now, I know that's not everyone's experience, but that was mine. I couldn't wait to come back. All I had left was that little car. I walked down that handicap ramp at that meeting, got in my car, went home. Now my parents want me to be there because I admitted I had a problem going to AA. I came back every day to that clubhouse. I got sober at clubhouse 9, noon, 5:38, midnight. I couldn't work. I was out of my mind, so I was going around the clock to meetings, and I'm talking to long-timers before the meeting and after the meeting. Nancy K. with 35 years, one of my heroes in AA. Bob C. had like 45 years. Bob would sit in the same chair at that meeting every night, right? And when I would share, and it got to Bob, his share sounded like what he was saying was what I said was stupid, And if you're new, you got to stay sober through those feelings and much worse. And I came to love Bob C. for being there 50 some years when he passed. Adam with 40 years, we call the new guys cakes. And if you gave yourself to them, these long-timers gave themselves to you. And I learned how they got 40 years, 50 years, 35 years. And I got in service. I became the alternate intergroup rep. And the intergroup rep, Sarah, drinks. So I'm now the intergroup rep of 3 or 4 months of sobriety. Sarah's now sober again. But I'm in service at that level in AA. I've never not been in service. It's just an honor now. I didn't drink coffee back then. I'm making coffee. I didn't smoke cigarettes back then. I'm cleaning your ashtrays. I'm doing whatever I can do. I'm showing up early, staying late. I'm doing everything AA asked me to do except for 12 things. And my life got really good externally, materially. Like, Within 3 months, my sister writes a poem that I'm her hero. I told you how I was with my sister, how I was abusive. Now, in 3 months of being with you and loving the fellowship and being in service, I'm her hero. I still have that poem in my bedroom. My mom and dad were showing me off to the family. Look at our son, he's back. Look at his eyes, his skin, he's back. I don't know what your dreams are. Maybe you guys have them, maybe you don't. I've always had dreams. I know who put them there, so I don't apologize for them. And most importantly, my dreams were I always wanted to be a good son, a good brother, a good friend, a good student, a good guy in the community. I could never be those things. But other dreams I had that were less important, but still dreams where I always wanted to travel the world. And I never left my hometown of Levittown. When I was 15 years old, my mom said, what do you want for Christmas? Most kids say, whatever. I said, give me a map of Europe. And I stared at that map, and I never went anywhere. I was too afraid to live. I couldn't get off the bar stool. And if you did live your life, I was resentful and envious and angry. Like my brother, who's younger than me, and worked hard, backpacked across Asia. My mom went to Europe, invited him. She never invited me. I'm resentful of them. I'm on the bar stool. I can't get off the bar stool. And I'm not that, listen, I'm a cheerleader in AA. I hope your life goes wildly successful. I know nothing's easy, but if you have dreams, you can do it. I'm here cheering you on. I want you to succeed in here. Do whatever it is you want. Back then, I couldn't do that. But now I'm in Alcoholics Anonymous. And what else happens when we put booze down is we find out what other gifts God gave us. And that is our responsibility, I believe. And I found out when I put booze down, I mean, this is the big gift, sobriety, but what other gifts that are unique to me that God gave me or unique to you that God gave you? And I found out when I put alcohol down, I have work ethic. And I'm up 4 a.m. working now and loving it. And I found out that God gave me a mind for business, and I threw something little together, a little easy business together first few months of sobriety. And it's funny how that can happen so quick when I'm not drinking. And now I got a few dollars in the bank, and I make a good investment. And I got another little thing going, right? Real quick in AA. And my brother says, why don't we go to Ireland when I'm 5 months sober? He says, why don't we go in about a month? And right after he said that, I'm in the literature closet of the clubhouse, and I find a meeting for all the meetings in Ireland. I thought that's a sign to go. So I planned this trip at 6 months of sobriety to go to Ireland, and we do. And we go for 10 days. I get off in Shannon, Ireland, and we're working our way up. But I realized right away that I wanted to drink. I'm looking over the ring of curry thinking, why can't I have a few beers with my brother? Why can't I? I'm in fourth day, I'm at Donegal in a restaurant. My brother orders a beer because he can drink, and I want to drink so bad it hurts. I'm calling my home group members, talking about it. I'm making meetings in Ireland, and the drink won't leave me. I end up in a restaurant that I spoke of, and I said, my brother's there. Now, I would have drank if it wasn't for my brother, but I told you how I treated my brother, and he knew I was a sober member of AA. I couldn't do it to him. I said, Will, I got to get out of here. And we left, and we went into their bed and breakfast, and I went to the bathroom, I closed the door. I didn't know what to do. I was like in the bathroom pacing. Now, I pay attention in AA. I'm not a perfect member, but I pay attention in here. And I did hear that at some point in your sobriety, the only thing between you and a drink will be God. Now, I didn't like that because I wasn't a God guy. I was a fellowship and service guy, but I heard it. And I filed it away, I guess. And there I am. I didn't know what else to do, so I dropped on my knees in that bathroom, and I said, God, I want to drink, but I don't want to drink. Please help me. And I didn't drink. But more importantly, I didn't want to drink. It's the first time that ever happened to me. Since I was 13 years old, alcohol owned me. I was a slave to it. In my mid-20s, I would cry, walk to the dive bars of my crappy life, wipe my tears off, and go in and order my alcohol. I couldn't not drink. And here I am. The desire was taken. I even went to Scotland on my own. I'm walking around Edinburgh, Scotland, 6 months sober. And the bar lights were flashing, which to me are the most attractive things in the world. And I don't want to go in. There was no I wish I could. I was free. I fly back to Dublin to meet up with my brother, and we fly home. Now I'm interested in the big book, Alcoholics Anonymous. There was a guy that was trying to sponsor me named Jimmy Wah. He would take me down to the basement, open up that beautiful blue book, and try to pull out the first few steps in the doctor's opinion and Bill's story and more about alcoholism. And there was a solution. We agnostics, but guess what? I wasn't receiving the gift. I was too afraid of it. I heard the message of AA here for my first 6 months. I hear victims in AA all the time. No one was trying to kill me. I heard it. I was afraid of it. If you got to know me, you wouldn't like me. And I was riddled with shame. But now here I am. I had an experience. with this power. So I opened up the big book on the way home, and it happened to be We Agnostics. And the first lines my eyes see are, guys, everything or is nothing, he either is or isn't what your choice to be. And I knew he was real. And I knew I'd be okay. And I didn't have to drink again if I depended on him. Now, all I ever wanted in life was to feel okay. Booze came close, but it wasn't real. This was real, and I knew it with everything in my being. And this thought came to me. It was inspirational or intuitional. It said, when you get off this plane, you go see that man that when he was in your home group and you were there, you were afraid of him, but attracted to him at the same time. His name's John Bragg, and he meant business. This guy didn't play around, and I knew it. And I loved what he would share because it came from somewhere deep, and he had conviction. And he would be at a table like this with guys around him with that book open, and I was curious about that, but I also stayed away from him because if you got to know me, you wouldn't like me. And I wasn't worthy. But I knew I had to go see him. So I went back to my home group, and I would sit there. He would sit in, I was in smoking, he was in non-smoking, and I kind of worked myself close to him. And after 2 weeks, I was right next to him. And one day he said, you want me to sponsor you or something? I said, John, I never thought you'd ask, That's like asking another man to be your Valentine. It's not easy. And my journey began with our program, Alcoholics Anonymous. And John grabbed my hand and I led him. And we went down the path of the 12 steps in that big book that I'm still on today. And I did everything that big book says to do, everything. I did it in doubt. I did it in fear. But I did it because I trusted John a little bit. And I ended up in a park with John and God, and it didn't seem like a good idea to me. None of this stuff seems like a good idea to me. And I got spiritually naked, vulnerable with my sponsor and God. And he showed me the truth. I allowed him to show me the truth about me. And what I thought it was to be a man, I was totally wrong. What I really saw was that like I mentioned, I was dishonest my whole life. And he said, Scott, if you want alcohol to not be a part of your life, you have to practice the principles of AA one day at a time with God's help. He showed me about resentments and fear. I understood that stuff intellectually, but the lying part really hit me. And on the way out of that park, he said, Scott, I'm your sponsor, but I'm human, I'm fallible. God's infallible. All-powerful, infinite knowledge and wisdom. He said that's the most important relationship you have. Now, I'm a big AA history guy. I love the history. I've been studying it ever since this gift got to my heart. And Sam Shoemaker was Bill Wilson's first spiritual advisor. And he told Bill, when it comes to sponsorship, he said, when you see the man with the problem, put his hand in the hand of him who has all the answers and go home. Don't stick around and play God. My sponsor put my dependence in its proper place. And it's been there ever since. That doesn't mean I don't need you. Without you, there is no me. My second sponsor, Vance S., taught me that. And I understand our first tradition. But ultimately, I'll fail you, you'll fail me. And I go home and I take the hour, and the fifth step promises come true in my life. As I reflected on what we talked about and the way I was up until that point, I felt the presence of my Creator come over me and the shame melted away. At that point, I tried to think about drinking. Which up until that point, if you told me I could have a couple beers and get away with it, like 7 or 8, and just control it, I would have took you up on it. I felt repulsed. Because I had the real thing. You can't have both. And when you got the real thing, you don't want the fake thing anymore. And I go to my home group that night after I've taken my fifth. And I'm looking at my friend Elena's eyes, and I realize I'm looking in someone's eyes for the first time in my life, and I don't want to hang my head, and I'm very comfortable there. Before I stared at your shoes, or I was uncomfortable in your eyes. And then something very important happened to me. I took a guy named Bill home, who I've been trying to help for 6 months. Bill is schizophrenic. Bill should have an advocate with him at all times. Bill has been made fun of his whole life, but my mom and dad showed me how to help the less fortunate, and many of us know how to do that. So it wasn't hard for me to be kind to Bill in a meeting, or give him a ride home, or buy him a meal, or give him a couple dollars before the diner, so that it doesn't look like I'm paying for him all the time. I know how to do those things, but I had nothing in the way of our program to offer Bill up until that point because I wasn't doing your work. But that night, I had something extra. I had just taken your fifth step. On the way home from that meeting, I said to Bill, do you have a sponsor? I said that to Bill because I wanted him to experience what I did earlier in the day with my sponsor. And he said, yeah, you. And I said, I'll take you as far as I can. And the next thing you know, we're fumbling through the first few chapters. I think I'm going to kill this guy. I'm calling my sponsor. And we ended up in a park a few weeks later after I told him what my sponsor told me. I know you're afraid to write that fourth. Say the prayer. Go back to the third. Say a prayer. Ask God for help. Magic pens. He writes it. I end up in a park with him. I'm listening to his fifth step. Tears are running down my cheeks. Because for the first time in my life, I was unconditionally in love with another human being. I would have spent as much time as it took in the park for Bill to know he's loved and forgiven, for him to know he never has to drink again, for him to have a purpose like I did with him in the park that day. And that's my primary purpose ever since. It's why I keep coming back to AA. And here's what Bill did for me. From having a guy right behind me that I'm trying to help through the steps, is that I had some hard amends I wasn't making. I ran off and made the easy ones. The ex-girlfriend, the other ex-girlfriend, the money ones were easy for me. I had a business going. That wasn't personal or intimate. I just gave you money because I got to stay sober. I got to pay my debts. But what was hard for me was my mother, brother, grandmother, sister. Those ones were hard, but Bill was catching up. I had him on an 8-step list. And I realized, oh my God, I care enough about it. I got to stay a step ahead of him. So I pray for the willingness, and pray for the willingness, and pray for the willingness. And courage was given to me to go make all those amends. Like my brother, man, I told you, I called him up and he said, yeah, come on down. He had no idea what was going on. I sat in his living room, I cried. He didn't know what was happening. I cried like a baby. But I was prepared to take ownership of how I treated him, and it was sincere. And he said, I forgive you. He said, I don't know if I could ever be as honest as you are right here. I said, how do you not hate me? I hugged my brother. I left that apartment and drove home, and I realized for the first time I had a relationship with him. I wasn't feeling awkward around him. There was nothing between us anymore. And a few weeks later, he said to me, hey, I know what you can do to make it right. I said, what's up? He said, take me through those 12 steps. He's an alcoholic. I guess he saw what they did with his older brother, and we sat down. He gave me a history lesson. My whole family are teachers. My brother, I was not, so he's giving me this history lesson every Sunday for hours, and I loved it. Then I took him through the history of AA, and then we took the steps together. And man, his 4-step was a joke. like sometimes his wife annoys him, We looked at it from an entirely different angle. He saw where he was selfish and inconsiderate. But there was one name on there that he had harmed which is very uncharacteristic of him. One person, because he's a decent, fair guy. His ex-girlfriend from 12 years prior, he cheated on her and left her, and she's from North Jersey. He hasn't seen her since. Always bothered him. I said, put her on your 8-step list. Someday you got to make this right. Pray about it. I didn't tell him go find her, because he's not an alcoholic. He's not going to drink and die if he doesn't. But I said, pray on it. My brother, 6 months later, I get this text message that says, ran into Sarah at the Austin airport, made amends, incredible. He's in Texas visiting my sister. His flight gets delayed. He's walking to the airport. He locks eyes with the one person on his 8-step list, Sarah, from North Jersey. He's with his wife. They go to the bathroom at the same time. He's one-on-one. He's prepared. He made this sincere amends. She forgives him. He said it was the best spiritual experience he ever had. He was free. My brother moved to New Zealand not too long after, and I showed him how we live in 10, 11, 12, because to me it's a way of life, a dance with God, and he is now over there practicing this way of life. Man, I was never a grandson. You told me, go spend time with your grandma. She's 86 years old with a walker in a nursing home. My grandma was amazing to us growing up. I start spending time just playing cards with her. They just want to know about your life, and I'm just sharing, and I find out a little bit about her life, what her hobbies are. She likes to go to Atlantic City. I'm self-employed, so I take her on a Tuesday to Atlantic City or a Thursday, and I thought it would be a few hours. She wants to be there all day, but spend like $20, On the way home, one of these trips, I said, Grandma, if you hit big, what would you do? Would you go to Vegas? She said, no, I wouldn't go to Vegas. I know exactly what I'd do. If I hit big, I would hire a driver to take me up to New England where I was born and raised before I die. But I know it'll never happen. I'm making my financial amends. I mentioned a funny thing happens on the other side of that is you can keep money and it can grow. It's just energy. I balance the books. So I have some money in the bank. I'm self-employed. I knew once my grandma said that, I want to do it with her. 3, 4, 5 months go by. I don't know. I called her up 3 months later. I said, remember that trip? What trip? The one in New England? I remember. I want to do it with you. What do you mean? I want to do it with you. I don't have any money, Scott. Don't worry about the money, Grandma. You wouldn't have any fun. Oh, I would have fun. I would need my own room. I got your own room. I had to beg her. And then she said, I want to do it in the fall. When the leaves are... I said, okay, we'll do it in the fall. I picked up my 86-year-old grandmother, put her with her walker in my Pathfinder. We drove up to New England for 8 days. First stop, Lisbon, New Hampshire. 91-year-old brother, 84-year-old sister spent the whole day. Got to know my family better. Next day, took her up to her 86-year-old best friend's growing up's house. Took us half the day to get up these steps, you know what I mean? We get up there, and they start talking, and they start laughing and crying. I start laughing and crying. They never thought they'd see each other again. I took her to where she had her first kiss, where she ran and played in the field as a kid in New Hampshire. I took her to the church she went to. She told me her whole childhood story. She even asked me to take her to a friend's house in Massachusetts. And I did, and as we went there, we passed a nudist colony. She said, turn around, I want to go check it out, you know. We took so many pictures. This was like 20 years ago. We took pictures as well. Man, we get home from this trip, my grandmother falls ill and passes away. But not before, like, as they do, she waited till her last son came up from Virginia before she went, and all she wanted to do on her deathbed when she could was show those pictures, and what a great time she had. And they asked me to say the last words at her funeral. So thank you, AA, for allowing me to be a part of my grandmother's last wish on earth. And she expressed to me a lot of things on that trip that I got to convey to the family for some healing, because there was a lot of alcoholism in that family growing up, and poverty and kids not feeling safe. And I was able to say some things to the kids, to her children, one being my mom, that she wanted them to know, and I guess she couldn't tell them. My favorite trip I've ever been on. Man, because of AA and God, this is not way to go, Scott, I understand that, but I've been able to travel to over 75 countries, 6 continents, about to hit the 7th continent next month with 20 AAs. 95% of my travel have been inside Alcoholics Anonymous. I have friends all over the world. I came here, I was all alone. I never left my hometown. Couldn't get off the bar stool. At a year sober, I'm in Hawaii at the Hawaii Convention of AA with 1,000 other AA members at least, and we're on a volcano at 4 a.m., and as soon as the sun comes over, we break into Lord's Prayer, and I'm crying. How did I get up here? I'm only a year sober, and here I am surrounded by a fellowship that I love and loves me, and we're talking about the gifts in our life. At 5 years of sobriety, I'm at the Thailand Convention of Alcoholics Anonymous with my buddy Spiritual Pete and Adam, who never left Philly. And now we're seeing the world together. At 6 years of sobriety, I'm over in England. Then they invite me to the Costa Brava in Spain convention. This is what's happening. And my life takes off. And dreams come true, and that's okay. And because I know, and life becomes abundant, but I know whose it is. I'm on my knees asking God to help me give it all away and thanking Him for everything He gave me and for what He took away from me. That's not always easy. And then life shows up, like the difficulties and the challenges, as our big book promises. And what I learned there is invaluable. It's way better. Not that it feels like it, but it's way more, way richer than when I'm checking off the things like, oh, I'm in Iceland on a snowmobile above the clouds. Woo, that's great, but I don't learn there. I don't grow there. I seem to grow in the fire. And what happens to me is at 8 years of sobriety, when I can't have the girl I want, my heart's broken. For 2 years, I'm in that pain. And at the same time that happens, my right-hand man in business, not my partner, my right-hand man in business told me he was leaving the company. And we thanked him for his service and threw a party with 150 people thanking him. And he cried on my shoulder that night. I thought maybe I was too hard on him at the end there. Maybe he was afraid to go, and he's just doing this on my shoulder. And the next day I find out why he was crying as I got into my QuickBooks system. He took me for everything. And he had been robbing me for a year straight. My fault. I took my eyes off him and I gave him too much responsibility. But that doesn't lessen the pain. And I was in so much pain. I had a broken heart. I was just stabbed in the back and I'm bankrupt. And I'm in a fetal position, crying. I can't look at my computer. I had to let you guys carry me. And I learned about the first tradition again, because I want to be the leader. I got this. Follow. No. My second sponsor, Vance, has taught me so much about humility in that. And what happens on the other side of that? I let you guys carry me, and I learned a new way of praying. It's not God take the pain from me, but God let me know you're here with me in this. And my sponsor, Vance, who had lung cancer, a back disease that put him in a wheelchair, all sober, and then brain cancer, which eventually took him, and I was there the night he died, and I said the last words at his funeral. He taught me about this, because he eventually said, thank you. Now, I don't know about all that, but I know I was able to get through it, and I know on the other side of it, I become more. And when I'm sitting out with a new guy who's going through a broken heart or stabbed in the back, I've been there. You can stay sober through that with AA and God's help. I did. You can. And I grow, and it's hard, but I stay in the center of AA, and I'm always honest with somebody in here. And what happens is then life gets hard. I watched my mom, as James mentioned, who James knows very well. And I watched my mom come down with dementia. One day she starts telling me the same thing. I walk with her every morning. Next thing I know, a year later, she's telling me the same thing 10 times in a row. That's not easy. My mom was my rock. Like when I was brokenhearted, I ran to my mom and dad, and I let them be parents. And they saw me hurting, and they saw a man maturing, because normally I wouldn't let you hurt me. But now a girl hurt me. They saw that. That was a gift that you guys gave my parents. And now here I am, tables turn. I got to go in and talk to my mom and dad, have that talk. My dad's not bathing. You guys tell me to go pray and go do it. I think it's going to be terrible. I pray, I go in, my mom and dad lean into it. They like it, that their son's there saying, I got to hold you accountable. You need to go to doctor's appointments. You're not bathing. We got to get you to bathe more. Mom, we need you. They're leaning into it. That day I left, I was like 17, 18 years sober. I'm leaving. I hear the door behind my mom and dad's close, and my mom's feeding the birds. And she goes, Scott. I turned around. She goes, you're a good son. It took me 18 years to hear that. I didn't need to hear that. I knew I was trying to be a good son. But these are the gifts we're given. I told you what my greatest dreams are. They've all come true. Good brother, good son, good friend, good guy in the community, good student of Alcoholics Anonymous. The only thing I've ever been an A student at. You know? And then, what happens, man, I'm hurting here, but AA, I'm married to AA. I'm fulfilled with Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm okay with just AA. That's how I feel. So I've been single many years in here. I would have relationships, they wouldn't work out, or I would get broken hearts, and that's okay. I got AA. And I'm just serving Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm fulfilled. And as I'm becoming a son to my mom and taking care of her and going through the frustrations and the patience that I don't have, but I'm doing better one day at a time. Telling you. And you guys have been through too. Your mom had dementia too. And what happens, I end up in the Middle East, in Bahrain, at the Merca Conference of Alcoholics Anonymous. And after that, I go to Qatar to go to the World Cup, because it's on my list. I want to see a World Cup, and I go to Qatar. And I put them on Facebook in this private group. Anybody in Qatar, I want to make meetings, because I go to meetings everywhere I go. My friend from California, who I haven't seen in 5 years, I met on a cruise, on that 100-year cruise. I met her there. She says, you're in the region? I'm over here in the Red Sea on this cruise. Come jump on. I look at my calendar, I can do it, and it was ridiculously cheap. I fly over to Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. I'm sitting with her, and I'm telling her, my friend, that she's like, what's going on? I said, well, the last year or so, I've been really praying, and it's been on my heart. What I see is a family. What I see is a wife, and I never could see this before. And I was telling my friends for a year. I get on that cruise, and the last day of my cruise, coincidentally meet this girl, this Australian. But I got to get off the cruise the next day, thank God, because I don't think we'd be married today if I wasn't. Because I'm not mature enough to develop something emotionally. What happened was, as we talked and we met up again to watch a game and have and have something to eat, I fell in love with, I was so intrigued emotionally and intellectually with this girl. And I flew home, and it was like I reached out to her. And she said, can you video chat? And I'm like, can't we keep just texting, And I finally jump on this video chat, and 3 hours later, it was the easiest thing ever, and I didn't want to do it. Every day for 2 months, video chatting for 3-4 months. And we ended up meeting up in Rome on our first date for 5 days. And everything worked out. And first person I think ever in the history of the world she was living in Dubai, from Dubai to Levittown. And I got to tell you something about my wife, man. Beautiful, kind. My mom doesn't know my brother's name, but knows my wife's name. She's better with my mom than I am. And when I got here, you talk about 6 and 7, when I'm learning, what a challenge, man. What I see myself, all the selfishness, all the inconsideration, and I'm in it. And I'm committed. That's the beautiful thing. I'm committed to it. But my God, do I have to make changes and become more selfless? And I talk about that and inventory that. And man, she joined within 1 week. I drove her to Al-Anon. Literally and metaphorically. She said, I just want to, don't introduce me to any of your Al-Anon friends. I want to go make my own friends. That's the kind of woman she is. And she's now doing step work in Al-Anon, and we go to conventions together. Right? So we never know what's going to happen in here. If you're new, man, your dreams can come true, whatever they are. I love AA. I love AA. I owe my life to it. And thank you for letting me come out and share a little bit of that.